What's up, y'all? This is the Weird, Fat and Sober podcast. I am joined by my friend Melissa. She's gonna tell us her story today. So yeah, go ahead. Where are you from? Like, just kind of get into it as much as you want, whatever.
So I'm from Houston.
Okay.
I grew up near Rice, which is like the academic, like intellectual center of Houston.
Right. Try to keep that mic about a fist away from
Okay, so closer. Is that bueno?
Perfect. And down just a little.
Down.
bit.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm the oldest of 4 kids.
Oh wow.
And my dad and I are both in the program.
Oh.
Everyone else is pretty normies, pretty much normal.
So suburb area outside of Houston?
Kind of. I grew up in town.
Okay.
So I grew up like in downtown Houston.
Okay.
And then moved out to suburbia
Yeah.
in like my freshman year of high school. Right
Nice.
around. Yeah.
So I mean, you said your dad and you were in the program. Has he been sober your whole life?
No.
Oh.
He actually, I think he had been dry for a couple of years.
Okay.
Is my mic good?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
you're fine.
Okay. So he had been like dry, just like white knuckling it for a couple of years. And then I decided that I needed to get sober when I was 17.
Oh, okay.
And just out of the blue. And so I started going to meetings and he started going to meetings.
Oh.
And he stayed sober.
Cool.
I did not.
Yeah.
It was in 2009.
Wow. So your
Yeah.
dad's been sober ever since then, or before then? 2
Yeah.
years
So
before.
I think he's got 15 years.
Cool. And
15
what about your
years.
mom?
She's just an Al-Anon.
Oh,
Like
okay.
she's
But are they married still?
no, they're not
Okay.
married.
Okay.
Not married.
So 4 siblings. Wow. So what? How many boys and girls?
All girls except for the youngest.
Oh wow.
So he's the baby boy.
Yeah. How old's the youngest?
He just turned 18, so we're all 3 years apart.
Oh, wow.
So 27, 28. I'll be 28 next month.
Right.
And then 25 and 21
Cool.
and 18.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of kiddos, a lot of puberty.
So,
like
I mean-
15 years straight of puberty, my poor parents.
So I mean, what was y'all's home life like? I mean, what did your parents do?
It was weird. It was so my dad is a researcher. He's like been in academia for a long time.
Oh.
So he's really, really fucking smart.
Right.
Like probably if he were not an alcoholic, probably would have had a few Nobel Prizes under his belt.
Right.
My mom stayed at home with us, but she was a art historian. She studied art history in school.
Oh wow.
And we lived in downtown Houston, and I had this crazy smart dad and this crazy smart and creative mom. So it was a really cool combo. So like we were constantly doing like art tours and going to like lecture series. Like my
Wow.
dad would drag us to like Nobel laureate lecture series and like coffee shops, like underground intelligentsia kind of stuff when we were
Wow.
like 6. So it was cool.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of like academic pressure, like from a very early age. So I remember being like 6 or 7, and my dad would assign me like 2 or 3 page papers on Plato.
Oh my
like on
gosh.
Plato's The Republic.
At 6 and 7?
Yeah, it was insane. And I would read it and be like, what the hell is happening?
My girlfriend's daughter's 6, and we're
Yeah.
just like she's like reading children's books to us at night. So like,
I know. And like, I remember thinking like, this is too much. Like the standards are too high.
that's gnarly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was kind of, it was a very weird environment, but it was really cool. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That sounds like education was like super like
But
priority in your family.
Yeah, but not traditional education. Like we didn't want to be educated by the man. Like our
Right.
parents didn't want it. They're like,
They want you to be intelligent, but
Yes.
not book smart.
yeah. So we
Okay.
would like, school was basically like daycare, and then the real learning would happen whenever we got home.
Wow.
So I would have like all sorts of projects, and like if I had to get allowance money, I had to read like for my 13th birthday, my parents gave me a Sheryl Crow CD and the Beginner's Guide to Friedrich Nietzsche.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of what it was like.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds intense.
Yeah, but it was really cool.
Yeah,
it was really
that's,
cool.
That's definitely a lot different than my upbringing. It's cool. So I mean, like, what was the home life like? Was it? I mean, 4 kids is a lot. I feel like.
Yeah.
Were your parents stressed out at some times?
You know, it was really okay until my brother was born. My brother he's just a total miracle, but he had some complications. There was some malpractice incidents when he was born, and he came out of that with cerebral palsy. as a result of malpractice, which was on my fourth step a lot.
Yeah.
But so that took up a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
So that he was born when I was about 10, and that was really kind of this big shift where it was like I was 10. My parents are great, but dad is in the throes of alcoholism. Mom is living in the hospital with the baby brother.
Yeah.
Like, take care of the kids.
Yeah. So a lot of pressure was probably put on
Yes.
you to step up to the plate.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
help out at 10.
So that, I mean, it wasn't that bad. Like, I kind of thought of it as a game.
Right.
Like, would think of things to do. Like, we did all sorts of like boxcar children kind of shit. Like, we made like swings, like rope swings, or like, what do you call it? Not
Like
bungee.
tire swing?
No, like zip lines.
Oh.
We made, like, I made a zip line out
Way
of,
more dangerous.
Yeah, so I made a zip line from our roof into the tree, and I would put like my 3-year-old sister in this like
You're the
zip
test
line.
dummy.
Yeah. So like, like I had to be responsible, but I was also like a crazy kid.
Oh, yeah.
And did stuff like that, so it was
Wow.
okay. But I started drinking then,
How old?
like 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Just
and-
like getting into dad's liquor cabinet?
yeah,
or-
well, it wasn't like I was getting fucked up at 10.
Yeah.
But I don't know if your parents ever had this, but like the Zimas, it's like
I never had the
it's like
Zimas.
old
Just
school
Jack Daniels in our house.
old school Smirnoff.
Right.
They were like wine junkies, and then like old school Smirnoff, and that was
Yeah.
pretty much it. So I would start stealing Zima Lights and drinking them on the
At
roof
10.
in my zip line. Yeah.
That's not dangerous at all.
No, it's totally normal.
So, wow. I mean, looking back, was it like, you know, just drinking because you saw like your dad doing it, or like?
No, I actually never saw my dad drink.
Oh, really?
He like I may have seen him have like a glass of wine or
Yeah.
something like that, but he was very much like a closet drinker.
Oh.
So I saw like the emotional effects of that, but I didn't see like, you know, kind of like the absentee, like emotionally absent kind of
Right.
throes of alcoholism kind of deal. But I never saw him like get trashed or like yell or scream or anything like that. But so it wasn't that. I was just always really fucking unhappy.
Yeah.
Like I was just like everything was fine. I was just an unhappy kid, like from the get-go. Like I remember being like 5 or 6 and not getting something that I wanted, and I went to the butcher block and pulled out a knife and like put it to my throat at 5.
Oh, wow.
And like I was just like always, it's not that everything around me was bad. There was just always something wrong with me.
Yeah.
So as soon as the opportunity came for me to start like getting into things that changed how I felt, I was on it.
Yeah.
Like on it.
Yeah. So, wow, that's
Which is
intense.
kind of nuts.
Yeah, no, and I feel like with the firstborn, like I'm the oldest too, and it's like,
The test tube.
yeah, we are the
Definitely.
practice run, and
Yeah.
so like we all, most people I know that are older brothers or older sisters, they're
Right.
like the problem child at some point, maybe not at the beginning, but like, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like
Always.
we just
at some
developmentally
point.
something, especially if you have siblings, because like your parents once the next kid is born, like their focus is there, and so I
Right.
can't imagine with 3 other siblings, like
I don't know. My sisters are like really easy and low maintenance and nice and smart.
Yeah.
And so it was always just like, what is Mel going like
Right.
into now?
I'm not saying it's like your parents or your upbringing's
Yeah.
fault, but it just seems like there's kind of a trend there
No,
from in my own, what I've seen, but
The first are test tube
Yeah,
children. Like
for
that's
sure.
just scientific, I think.
so I mean, like when did it ramp up for you? I mean, obviously you're at 10 you're stealing Zimas and
Yeah.
stuff, but like
A couple years later, so like 13.
yeah.
So I had my mom's brother. There's a lot of alcoholism in my mom's side of the family. And I had an uncle who was like, I always knew something was wrong,
Right.
but it was never discussed. Drugs and alcohol were like never discussed. But he was murdered when like my freshman year of high school, and it was it was drug related.
Yeah.
And at first, I was like, I'm not going to end up like Uncle Ed, because I had been told like my whole life, like you and Uncle Ed are the same.
Oh, wow.
And like you guys are so similar. And we had this like mental connection and everything. And when he died, it was like, I'm never going to do what Ed did. And then within a couple of weeks, because I'm an addict, my train of thinking literally went to what was so good it was worth dying for.
Oh, wow.
And I started getting fucked up, fucked up at like 13.
So that would have been like junior high-ish years.
Yeah. So eighth grade.
Yeah,
it started going
rough.
like hard.
Yeah, I feel like junior high is the roughest like experience of
definitely
adolescence. You
oh
know?
God, thank God it's over.
Like puberty's starting and like everybody's kind of starting to figure out their own personality, kind of. Like it's a mess. But so wow, that's intense, man. So he got murdered and you just what was the first thing you did? Drink? I mean,
no, I like when I say like I would do anything for a long time just to get fucked up. And I had a girlfriend at school show me this cool trick with a washcloth and a can of of air freshener.
Yeah, just huffing.
And, oh my God, it's like I feel like my IQ must have gone down about 40 points.
Yeah.
I
never huffed, but I did the air duster and like.
Well, like I was desperate. Like I was just desperate, and so I think that's how it started. And then I started drinking.
Right.
And I pretty much only drank, I guess, for a couple of years. And then in high school, I, pot. I started smoking pot. And that was like easy and fun for about a year. And then my sophomore year of high school, someone introduced me to Coke.
Yeah.
And that was when it started going downhill for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, real quick.
So sophomore year of high school, you tried cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean.
And I was hooked in like 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Down.
When did your parents like throughout this? Did they ever notice? Were you the kind of person that got away with it for the most part? Or?
I got away with it. Like they knew that I was being a baddie.
Yeah.
And so I got grounded a lot. And they would do this fun thing where they would just ground me for like 6 months at a time. So I would just jump off roofs and do all sorts of like master manipulator of things to get out. And for a long time, my line was, I have a sinus infection. Because I would be sniffling constantly and my eyes would be like bloodshot. Right. And I would just be like, and I'd be at the dinner table like blitzed, with all the sweet young kids eating mac and cheese. Like, oh, it's just a sinus infection. I don't know what's going on. And I'm like,
sinus infection in summer.
Right.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, can you get me a Z-Pack, Dad? I just don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, so how were you as a student at this point? Were you able to balance? I mean,
no. And it, I had gone from being like the overachiever without really even trying, just because I think of all this stuff that was going on like at home.
Yeah.
Like, because I was continuing to do all sorts of like weird science stuff.
Like
cool
from your
science
parents?
Stuff. Yeah. And I had interned in a couple of like really prestigious like chemistry labs.
Wow.
So I worked my freshman year doing biomedical engineering at UT, and then
your freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then my sophomore year, so right around the time that I was starting to do coke, I was working in a Nobel laureate's office doing in a chemical engineering lab doing DARPA projects. So
wow.
the defense,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, I was like doing okay in school, but I was doing all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then within about 6 months, it just like nothing.
Yeah.
I just stopped going to class.
Yeah.
I just couldn't keep up. Like I could do this crazy, wild extracurricular stuff that was really cool. But I couldn't do stuff like stay in a 50-minute class and function.
I'm sure also with all that going on at home and like the culture of your family, like, education outside of the school,
weird. Yeah.
like you probably had a little bit, did you have like any kind of disdain for teachers? Was it just like, did it seem pointless to you?
No, because I was lucky that I had really good teachers. I was in like mostly AP classes.
Right.
So in the school district I was in, they just had like a really good AP program.
Yeah.
So I had really good teachers that I really liked. Like it was intellectually like engaging, but I just wouldn't show up.
Yeah.
And I think my mom told me later that I would have like, or my professor or my teachers at that point would all be emailing her being like, you're such a bad parent. Like, why is this girl never coming to class? She's like one of our best students. Like, what's happening at home? And she thought I was in school the whole time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it escalated pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, so, doing cocaine in high school, how often did you say you did it? Was it a weekend
Every
thing?
day.
Every day? Like
Every day.
From the first time you did it?
Well, no, not from the first time.
I mean,
like,
yeah, I'm just...
it starts out with for me, it was like, I will never buy it. I'll only do it if someone else has it at a party.
Right.
And then like a month or two later, it's like, I'll only do it when I buy it when I'm with my friends.
Yeah.
And then, well, this is my Ape, I'll get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I was like real skinny. And so they're like, girls have these like boob inserts that you put in your bra. You call them like chicken cutlets, and they're made out of silicone.
Oh yeah.
And so I would cut one open and put like
a stash spot.
Yeah, but it would stick in there because it's silicone on the inside. So I'd stick a bag of Coke in, and then just go to the bathroom like in between classes and whip out my fake tit and stick my nose in the back.
That's great.
Yeah, that was my. Oh God.
So I mean, what was the breaking point? I mean, it seems like you couldn't have maintained not going to class. I mean,
no. Well, it wasn't even that. Like, it wasn't that the classes were so bad, and like, mind you, I'm getting like grounded and like severe punishments and like really weird, creative punishments that sucked. Yeah. But
got to write a dissertation at 16.
Like okay, for example, I got like a clothing violation, like a dress code violation. So my dad made me go to this Christian modesty seminar.
Oh, wow.
So it was a 3-day seminar, and I got an award for being the youngest person. and it came with like an optional paid for box set of CDs that had 5 CDs with 3 sections per CD. So 15 sections on like modesty sermons.
Wow.
And I had to write a 5-page paper per each section. So what's 5 times 15, like 45 handwritten pages about how modesty applies to my life.
Oh my God. Were your parents religious?
My dad was, yeah.
Okay.
He before I got sober, he found Jesus.
Oh. That's my dad's story.
Yeah.
He traded, meth and cocaine for Jesus.
God.
So
oh, it's rough. I feel you.
I did the same thing when I first got sober, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that if it works for you. But being under their roof is very demanding and like hard to deal with. But
right.
So, what was the breaking point? We didn't finish that.
I lost my sanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started having hallucinations every day.
Psychosis.
Yeah, cocaine. I went into a full-blown psychotic episode, and I was like, oh, this is scary. And so I stopped doing everything cold turkey because I wanted to be sane, and they didn't stop.
Oof.
And there was about a month period, and I was doing all sorts of like, someone told me, so I was like freebasing coke in my closet at like 15, 16 years old, like and I couldn't get my hands on needles. So someone told me if I like got drunk and slashed into myself, you could rub coke in it. And so
never heard of that.
Yeah, it didn't work, but like I thought that it would because
blood's going the opposite way you need it to go.
Right. So I was like covered in all, like I had passed out, got really fucked up, like coming out of the bathtub and like passed out on a coal, like on a hookah coal. Oh. So I had was in full psychosis, had burn poisoning, was like on the verge of septic shock from all of these fucking like coke wounds.
Ugh.
I mean, I was a mess.
Yeah.
A complete mess. And I was still managing somehow to hide it. But after like, I think I tried going to school, I wound up spending most of the days like huddled in a bathroom stall.
Yeah.
Like, just like, stop, please stop. Like, something is wrong.
Right.
And,
what were all your hallucinations? Were they like paranoid delusions? Or?
It was a woman singing.
Oh.
It was fucking creepy.
That is creepy.
Yeah, it was like really creepy. It was like, if you could imagine like a siren song.
Yeah, it sounds very folklorish. Like...
It was demented. Ugh. Like, demented and terrifying. Yeah. Like, just, I thought like, I'm gonna die. Like, this woman's gonna get me. Yeah. And like I knew it was a hallucination, so that was somewhat helpful, but
still, yeah,
it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And I had kind of come to this point where it was like whether or not I'm doing drugs or not, this is happening. My body is failing.
Yeah.
And I've got to die.
Yeah.
And so I was like, for like kind of testing on like how I was going to kill myself, and because I could not stand it. And I blacked out. No, I didn't black out. It was like something took over my body, and I was high as a kite. I had just done every single drug in like that I had stashed places. Right. I tore through and found everything, and then walked my happy ass downstairs and said, "Mom, I need to be in a rehab right now, or I'm gonna die."
Damn.
And I was like, "No, please stop!" But my mouth wouldn't stop moving. I swear it was like God intervening. Yeah. Because I would not have done that. I didn't think that I could be sober, but my body was going and my mouth was going. Yeah. And she took me to a rehab, and they rejected me.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that you were young or what?
Because I was young and I had so much medical stuff going on. Like, my mom didn't know any of it, and they like, you know, undressed me and assessed what was going on, and they were like, "You can't be here. Like, you need like medical care." And I like showed my mom what was happening, and she was like puking and like terrified. And so they put me in this place called West Oaks, which is a acute care mental institution. Wow. In Houston. And that was ward. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that was my first day sober.
So did you only go to the psych ward? Did you go to a rehab?
No. I was in inpatient treatment or like inpatient care there for like 10 days.
Right.
And my dad was on a business trip in France, and he had to come back early. And I was like, no. Yeah. So he had to come back early from France, and I was embarrassed. And I was like, you know what? I was lying. I'm cool. And they were just like, fuck no, you're not. So I did like a month-long kind of outpatient kind of thing. And it wasn't with the rehab, but it was through like adolescents who had been in that.
So there's other people around your age in the same similar situations there.
And most of them were runaways and foster care. Yeah. And I think I was the only person there with parents.
Yeah.
It was
home life. And
yeah, exactly.
Did anybody suggest AA to you while you were there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had one woman visit me from PDAP. PDAP is an alternative peer group. So it's kind of like
Smart Recovery, but for...
I don't know what Smart Recovery is, but it's like AA for kids.
Oh, okay. Then no, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's basically AA for kids.
Okay.
And yeah, so this girl came from PDAP and explained what it was, and she told me her story. And I was like, wow, if you can get sober, I can get sober.
Yeah. Wow,
that sounds great. And so I started going to PDAP, and it was really cool, and I really liked it. Yeah. And but I couldn't stay sober.
How long were you doing the PDAP?
I was in PDAP consistently for about 2 years.
Okay.
So, and when I was there, so there would be like weekly meetings, like 3 or 4 meetings a week. And like they would modify like the 12 steps kind of like you do in Celebration. Right. Or something like that. And where it wasn't like strictly AA, but everyone was in AA. So, and we would all go to NA meetings and AA meetings all over Houston, and you know, drink
as a group of young people. That's cool.
and drink tons of Red Bull and stay up for 2 days and chase peacocks and shit.
Right.
So it was fun, but I couldn't stay sober.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just couldn't.
Right.
So
I mean, after this whole incident, like with the psych ward, and then you get back into the PDAP, I mean, were you able to finish out high school and graduate and everything?
No. No, I dropped out.
Oh, really?
Like it took me a solid 3 years, I think, before my brain was like functioning normally. Right. Yeah, it was crazy. And for as crazy smart as my parents are, they were like, school's not your priority right now.
Yeah. Well, that's smart. Healthy. That's really smart of them. I mean, because that would have been a lot of pressure. Like, you know, I always tell people who are in early recovery, like, keep it simple, because like you're already doing the hardest thing possible. So that was a good move on their part, I'm sure.
And I was embarrassed about having a GED for a while, but then like people who know me, they were just like, what? So it became kind of like a party court.
Yeah. I mean, Now it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, it's
Not
it's
at
the
all.
same thing. But so I mean, you said that you did the PDAP. What was it called?
PDAP.
PDAP.
The Palmer Drug Abuse Program.
Okay. You did it for 2 years, and then what was the circumstances leading to like you deciding that you didn't want to be sober? Was it just like?
Well, I mean, I was sober 99% of the time,
Right.
I would say. So I would do that thing where, every 2 or 3 months, like I go smoke pot. I'd go drink, but it wasn't anything crazy.
Nothing bad would happen.
Yeah, no, nothing bad. It would just be like I'd get fucked up and then feel bad about it and then go to a meeting and, get another desire chip. And, I used to say I had enough desire chips to tile a bathroom, to retile a shower, which I might want to do.
That'd be actually kind of cool. So, I mean, you said in the beginning of this that your dad went back to AA. Was that during this time or was this later?
Yeah. So it was whenever I started going to PDAP, they had like family meetings.
Right.
And I think that he started going to some of the family meetings and met some people like him, middle-aged men who are very smart and were sober, and they got him plugged into like normal AA life.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was your relationship with your parents like during this time?
Toxic.
Yeah.
So bad.
And I mean, what was the home life like too? Because I mean, were you still at home, I guess, during all this?
Mm-hmm. I was still at home, barely.
Yeah.
I mean, there had been a couple of occasions where my mom and I like got physical. We're like my drinking encouraged her drinking, and she's not an alcoholic, but like I was just so much of a handful that like it really rubbed off on everybody in the family.
Right.
So we were just fighting like cats and dogs, and I think it took, close to 10 years, probably close to maybe like 7 or 8 for us to have like a healthy relationship. But we were just like at each other's throats 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So there was not a lot of peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was just like, what?
Yeah.
What is happening?
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you spend the 2 years in the PDAP and like you're, doing the thing really, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you probably were like 17, 18 around this time?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what led back into like full blown back in the, using world?
Well, I didn't go back into the using world. I was so scared shitless of what narcotics had done to me.
Right.
Like I dropped them then.
Right.
And so I've, I guess close 10 years.
Oh, I don't know you've been sober that long.
No, I have not.
Oh.
But I haven't done any narcotics in 10 years because they scared the shit out of me. Right. But
Sorry,
I couldn't wrap my head around. I was like, okay, this is bad.
Right.
But I couldn't really wrap my head around not drinking.
Okay. So, I mean,
because that wasn't my problem.
Right.
And every time that like I went back out and I relapsed, I would work steps.
Right.
Because it was like, why the hell would I not? Like, it doesn't make sense. So I always I initiated getting sober. I wanted to be happy, joyous, and free. So I worked steps and I went to lots of meetings and I always had a sponsor and I had a good group of women. But I always got stuck somewhere because I was never able to fully concede to my innermost self.
Right. Be thoroughly honest with yourself.
Yeah. That I was an alcoholic,
which
is the step before the steps. And I couldn't do that.
You just did everything else to try to compensate and get better, but without ever really fixing the core issue.
I hadn't had the spiritual conundrum, the spiritual push.
Yeah.
And so I had this guy, one of my counselors, or he was kind of like a group sponsor. I don't know. He was just someone who worked for PDAP. He pointed out a page in the big book and said, if you're unsure, step to your nearest bar and take a drink.
Right. Try to drink responsibly.
Try to drink normally. So I did. And it was probably the best advice I've ever gotten.
Right.
Because I feel like a lot of people are kind of afraid to say that. Who suggested this? So I went out and I drank. And I tried to drink normally. And I succeeded for a little while.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was a little while, but it kind of worked.
Yeah. And where's your dad in all this? I mean, is he supportive of you trying to not be in the program or?
No. No. Oh God, I think I lied for a while.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to meetings. And
Yeah,
going to the
yeah.
bar.
I'm not drinking. Well, I wasn't 21, so I couldn't go to a bar yet. But
right.
He had gotten a job in Saudi Arabia. So my poor mother was having to deal with, and this is kind of, him moving overseas kind of was the big element that led to them separating.
Right.
But so my dad had left and was just kind of like a call-in parent at that point. And I was going through all this chaos. My mom was having to deal with me and the two other, like all 4 kids. Right. Which probably is why she was so pissed off that I was being so crazy still. But I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, you drank responsibly for a while. I mean, how long did that last, and what?
Well,
what led to, like, did it ramp up ever to the point where you weren't being responsible? I mean,
of course. I mean, I'm sober now.
Yeah. I mean,
I forget how that all actually. So, I started dating a guy.
There it is.
That
was gonna be my next question. We haven't talked about any love life stuff
so far.
Yeah.
I started dating this guy who was really instrumental in me not killing myself. And so I had this like very special bond. He was a very close friend of mine. We started dating. Shit went crazy. And my normal casual drinking, like maybe drinking a couple of glasses of something, like, or a couple beers every like once a week, turned into oh God, how much was it? It was a lot. I would buy a handle a week.
Wow.
1 handle a week.
Yeah.
And that was before I went out.
Like, that was just the pre-game.
Yeah, that was my pre and post game, was a handle of Evan Williams.
Yeah.
So it got that fast. And I guess my dad knew about it, and he was just like, okay, sweetheart. And I had this like a little hatchback, and I would throw all of my handles into the back of my car. And once I got sober, he was like, yeah, I was a little curious about the recycling operation you had in the back of your car. I was like, fuck.
Never heard of open container charges, I guess.
Oh my God. I have no idea how I didn't get a DUI or something.
Have you ever had legal trouble?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Like, act of God.
Yeah.
There was a couple of occasions where I got like the rule, like you get pulled over by 1 cop, like you got a chance. 2, like you're going in cuffs.
Yeah.
There was multiple occasions where I got pulled over by like 3+ cops and never got a like shit face.
And
at like
let you
4
drive
in
home?
the morning, and they'll let me drive home without a ticket.
Oh yeah.
No idea. But so things with him got really bad. The drinking got really bad. Like I really was like introduced to just pure unadulterated alcoholism. And
were y'all just toxically drinking together? And
yeah. Oh, terrible.
Drinking about each other, drinking together.
Oh, I mean, I don't feel like toxic alcoholic relationships can really be that different. Like,
no, yeah.
From like, they just suck. You're just drinking about everything.
Yeah. And then your drinking causes more incidences and fights, and then you're drinking about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and there was times where it got like really physical. Like, I think I was being crazy once, and he was trying to, I don't know what, but he like held me down in an ant pile. Damn. And like, I was like,
fuck.
Yeah. And I was like, almost had to go to the ER because I had anyway.
Yeah. Covered in ant
stuff
bites.
like that kept happening. It was not ideal. And I think at some point, like I hit so I was going to say that like from when I started drinking until I got sober, I'm pretty sure most people can relate to this. Like it's a steady, when I was dating him, I think it was kind of no fucks given.
Right. Can you pull that mic just a little bit closer to you? You can pull it too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
Was a no fucks given phase. But outside of that, it was always this, I'm going to drink really responsibly. Like, I'm going to be normal. I'm just going to go to the bar. I'm going to go to that friend's house, have 2, have 3, and then go home, and it'll be okay, and keep it there. And so I would do that for a couple of weeks and then be like, great job, Mel. You're doing so good at this, and lax up. And then go through a no fucks given, have a consequence, right? Like something terrible, like the 4 horsemen kind of ordeal.
Yeah.
And then be like, come to Jesus, or what I like to call a tabula rasa moment, a clean slate moment, where it's like, okay, we're going to wash it all off and start over. And it was just like that, like clockwork, like every 3 months, like every 3 months.
Yeah. And
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting emotionally, mentally. And it's like, sometimes it kind of prolongs because like the thing that happens isn't so bad. And then you kind of get over it. You get your mental health back a little bit. And you're like, okay,
the fear subsides.
Yeah. And then so you kind of ease back into it. Yeah. It's like a tough place to be. And like the majority of people who we categorize as normies in AA, like that's the space they live in. You know what I mean? Like I know playing music, I know a lot of people who drink, and like I see it. Like I have friends that are missing a side mirror on their car, but like their car drives, so like they're fine. They didn't total their car.
I'm good.
I just need to take a couple nights off of drinking and like it'll be fine.
Well, but they got those like moments of consequence. They get worse and worse.
Oh, for sure. It definitely piles on.
And none of it was ever as bad as like drug psychosis. So it was like, I'm doing all right, you guys.
I'm not seeing the lady.
Oh my God. It was just haunting. Anyway, but I think I had hit one of those kind of bottoms and I was like, I cannot be here and not drink. What the fuck am I doing? And so I decided to go live with my dad in Saudi because there was no alcohol in the whole country.
Can't drink if there's no alcohol.
Yeah, I can't drink if there's no booze.
Oh yeah.
And little did I know that my dad had a fucking distillery in his apartment.
Holy shit.
I know. And I was like, you're sober. What are you doing? And
that doesn't sound legal. I don't know if there
No,
laws.
it's not. Yeah. It's not. But like all of the expats did it. So he worked for Saudi Aramco, which is like the oil company. And so they have like military bases that they keep the Westerners in. Yeah. Like it's fucking weird.
So you went to live over there?
Oh yeah.
For how long?
Yeah, about a year.
Wow.
And so I had a big blowout.
Yeah.
I had a big blowout because I was like, that's it. Peace, bitches. I'm going to be sober, but not this week.
Oh, yeah.
And so I pre-gamed for my stint in the desert, my like proverbial like soul searching in the desert. Yeah. And
your soul quest.
Yeah.
Or vision quest.
God. Yeah. So I did that and I had like a week-long blackout.
Oh, man.
And I woke up. I don't know. Little pieces of it like came back to me like over time. But I blacked out and I woke up in Kuwait.
Oh. What? That's like a straight up movie moment. Like,
it was the most terrible thing. Like, oh my God.
What was the first thing you like remember seeing when you came to? Like,
so like first off, I was covered in piss. Like,
oh, what the? Yours?
Mine, yeah,
okay,
mine,
okay.
yeah.
Well,
No, not anyone
R. Kelly
else's
situation.
No. But like, so it was like this 18-hour flight, and I think I met a guy who I think was working for Blackwater before it got disbanded for being illegally like killing people.
That was a security thing, right?
Yeah. So it was, they were paid for mercenaries. And I met this guy from who was from the US working for Blackwater going to Baghdad.
Yeah.
And we just stole all of the airplane bottles of booze. And I think he must have given me some Xanax or something. Like nothing could have really bad happened because we were on an airplane.
Right, yeah.
But like I like that. What is it? Like Bridesmaids or?
I don't know.
Oh, there's this movie with Kristen Wiig, and she's like,
oh yeah,
I like had to like not watch it for
because you can relate too much.
Anyway, but like, so I blacked out. So I wake up in Kuwait, can't find my passport. And people are just like, I'm not wearing a hijab. Like, I'm not wearing any of... I did dress kind of conservatively because I knew I'd be getting off the plane. But I was still in leggings. Yeah. And no hijab and nothing. Yeah. And I really needed a cigarette because I hadn't had a cigarette in 18 hours. But I get off. I come to in the terminal of the Kuwait City airport, and people just look like they want to fucking stab me.
Yeah.
And everyone's
desecrating their land.
Everyone smells. Everyone's angry. Oh, it's 130 degrees outside. And I turn around and there's just like the desert. Like
as far as you can
like
see.
as far as you can see.
Oh,
It is like
man.
desert and tanks and angry men, and I smell like pee and I'm mushy and I don't know what the fuck is happening and I can't find my passport. And it's like, I didn't know this at the time, but it was not kosher for women to smoke. But I stepped into like the smoking, there's an airport smoking box that has about like 80 really stinky Middle Eastern guys in it, chain smoking. And so I go in there and I'm smoking and they like clear a bubble for me and stare at me and I'm just crying and smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, where the fuck am I? I didn't remember getting on the plane.
Oh man. At least you were like you may not have been conscious, but you were like coherent enough to like get on.
I don't know how the fuck they got me through security.
Yeah,
like I
that's
don't
wild.
know. So
how old were you at this point? Like 20, in your 20s?
I was 20.
Okay.
I was 20.
That's wild.
I know. And I had oh God, what's the song? When the levee breaks playing on my, and I walk it, and I was just, it was terrifying. So that's when the lows started to get really low.
Yeah. Wow.
And I stayed sober when I was there, and it was fine.
You stayed sober while you lived with your dad?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I did.
But he was drinking?
No, he wasn't drinking.
Okay.
He has always been like a host.
Oh, okay. So you had a distillery for
and so
gatherings.
there was all of these the buildings where the compound was built in the 1940s. So and they built distillery rooms
right
for the expats. They converted them into laundries, so that's where you keep your washer and dryer.
Oh, okay.
But everyone had stills.
All right.
Stills. I don't know, whatever.
That's weird.
They made booze.
It sounds like something
And
that
through
maybe
parties.
was overlooked because you're doing business in their country or something.
Yeah, because you're helping them find oil.
Right. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
So I mean, what was the year like there?
It was cool, but I also so I have very good luck and very bad luck.
Yeah.
If you may have been able to tell by now. And I've ran into a lot of very bad luck situations while I was there.
Yeah.
And I came back with PTSD.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, I found a sponsor. His name was Steve. He was the first person, because I was sober and I wanted to do the thing. I worked with the best person I could find, and he was this ex RAF guy from India, Indian, Pakistani dude who was like homeless and on the streets of London for like 15 years, got sober, joined, anyway. So he was a hard ass, but he was the first person in my life who didn't sugarcoat things for me and said, "Stop being a spoiled little cunt." Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to die? And I was like, no. He was the first person in my life to cut through like all of the lies, all of the manipulation, all of it. And I think that my work with him was probably like the first stepping stone to like clarity.
Right.
Even though it would take a while, like he kind of cracked the door open.
Yeah.
And he was not doing some of his things right. And he got arrested and imprisoned for tax embezzlement.
Oh, wow.
And was tortured in Saudi prison for 4 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Where have you talked to him in recent years?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now he works for the court system in Perth.
Wow.
In Australia.
Wow.
But they put him so there's public execution areas.
Yeah.
Right next to the mall.
Yeah, no, that's the weird thing. I'm not very political or very knowledgeable of other country stuff, but I do understand like Saudi Arabia is like, they public executions.
It's a dictatorship.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is.
Our relationship as a country with them is like kind of fucked up. Is the fact that
it's totally dependent on oil.
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah. I mean,
we let them get away with
that's a
so
whole
much.
other conversation.
Right, they have like multiple human rights violations
just
on
like
a daily basis.
Different
so
podcast.
That's a really intense.
Sounds like a more Joe Rogan podcast conversation, right? But so like I got caught in so to put it in perspective, when I got there was right at the tail end of the Arab Spring. Everything was on high alert. Yeah. There was just like unrest like everywhere. And so when I got
like
off
2010, 2011?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right around there.
Right.
And I think I got there in the beginning of 12.
Okay.
So it was on the tail end, but everyone was still like real antsy.
Yeah.
So there were tanks everywhere, tanks lining the streets and like lots of machine guns and like full like keep the people sedated and in fear kind of thing.
Right.
And one particular thing was I was in a mall during Ramadan, and my dad is such a fucking idiot. He brought this girl with him who was like this 6'5" Australian bitch with like huge tits, flowing blonde hair, who refused to be culturally sedated and wear anything to cover. And I'm just like, oh God. So she's like this walking bullseye.
Yeah.
And it's just uncomfortable and everyone's staring, and like you get kind of briefed on like crisis and kidnapping and hostage situations and everything, because like all of Al Qaeda are Saudi nationals and they fucking hate us.
Yeah.
And there was a riot. There was a riot that broke out in the mall, and I got pulled apart from my dad and was being dragged towards the bathroom, and
like by some
like a group of like angry. So if someone started fighting, there like this huge brawl broke out, and then the entire mall, we were kind of at this like corner, like this apex point, and you could see everyone from all directions, all floors, 5 floors, all directions, running exactly to where we were. And it was just like a madhouse, and there was like blood, people were executed, like it was insane. And I got pulled away from my dad, and I was just like, I'm about to be like gang raped and like taken hostage and be in a video. God. I mean, it was like nuts. So after that I didn't, and he was like, it's cool, everyone's safe, and I'm like, ooh.
Oh my God.
And so I really didn't leave the compound after that. Yeah. And everyone was like, why did you have such a bad time? I'm like, what do you mean? Why did I have such a bad time? Anyway, so there was all this stuff that happened over there that I didn't really recognize was like insanely traumatic. There was a lot of violence, like a lot of like just crazy stuff that didn't really come out until I got sober.
Right.
Yeah. So that all kind of, even though I was sober, when I got back,
you weren't emotionally sober. I mean,
I started drinking as soon as I set foot on U.S. soil. Because it was like I did not know how to deal with all of that. I don't know if I'm going way off topic.
No, not at all. That is like, podcasts aside of stories I've heard, like that is literally the craziest shit I've ever heard. That's
it was
intense.
Nuts.
Yeah, that's fucking
nuts.
wild. So, I mean, wow. That is the craziest shit I've ever heard. So, I mean, you get home. I mean, fuck, you got a lot of reasons to drink now.
I got a lot of reasons to drink.
My question before this was like, before you finished that story was going to be like, I'm sure you were grateful for your life in the U.S. when you got home, but it's like, I'm sure gratitude was the last thing on
the ground. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
like, A, wanted to anesthetize the fear.
Right.
B, kiss the ground when I got home. And like it was the weirdest thing because I had like reverse culture shock. I was like throwed off. And I remember yelling at some girls who were wearing like tube tops and like short shorts at a Starbucks in the summer. And I was like, what are you doing? The religious police are going to fucking put you in prison. And they were like, ah!
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm not insane.
That is wild.
Yeah. It was crazy.
So when you get back, was it just like off to the races, or were you just full blown back into drinking?
I don't remember.
Yeah, well, that might be an indicator.
Yeah, true.
What was the move after that? What was your plan when you got home? Like, just
what did I do? I got a cool job.
Yeah, what was it?
I worked at this like high-end fashion place, clothing store. It's called Theory.
Nice. In Houston.
Plug in there, yeah. I worked there, and I met this really cool group of girls who I could go out, and I had turned 21 at this point, and who I could go out and go drinking with after work.
Right.
And that was like just normal and great, except so that's what I did was I like experienced normal drinking, except I would go out and have a normal girls' night, and then I would come home and finish pull out the handle of Evan Williams.
When everybody else is stopped, you're like,
I was asleep. I'm at 6 a.m. like watching like Trailer Park Boys, just like pulling
and pulling a Ricky. Just
I'm more of a Mr. Leahy.
Yeah.
Like
the liquor's calm, the shots are Andy.
Your shit burns. I'm definitely like not a cute drunk. I'm like a Mr. Leahy kind of Mrs. Leahy.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I know. Oh man, rest on the wings of shit eagles.
That's great.
I met a guy who was sober. This is really towards the end. I met a guy who I had known in the program. He was still sober. We fell in love over a weekend, and within 2 weeks, I was living with him in LA.
Oh, wow. Yeah. But like,
Smart.
Was he encouraging you to be sober? I mean,
no, I had thoroughly convinced him that
he could drink,
that I was normal.
Oh.
And then I think I attacked him once.
You wait, what?
Attacked him.
Oh.
No, I didn't jack him off. I
didn't mean like that.
Him.
I meant like you stole his car or something.
No. Apparently I thought I was being like cute and kinky, and I like hit him across the face, and he's got 10 years sober, and he was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
How about we not? And yeah, I got really bad in that first part of living in LA. Like, I thought I was possessed. And I also hit like another bottom. There's just a lot. You probably don't need details at this point, but like,
I mean, whatever you feel like disclosing. I mean, so that was your your rock bottom? I mean,
no,
there's
more still.
Yeah. I mean, we're coming up on an hour.
Oh, sorry.
No, I don't want to stifle anything. Like your story is the like wildest thing I've heard ever. And, I really appreciate you coming to tell me, but I mean, what was the thing that you point to now, like as your rock bottom? I mean,
well, okay, just to sum it up, I moved over there. I stayed sober. I was dry in LA for like 9 months. I came back to Houston because obviously that wasn't working, and I threw in the towel. And the last 6 months of my drinking were just desperately. I had all of these like moments where like hitting those bottoms and then trying to come back up, and it was my last ditch effort. And the last time that I drank, I went out for a single glass of wine with my boss, and that had like dedicated to myself, dedicated in my soul, one glass of wine, and I was going home, and I woke up in a different city with a very dangerous person, and I had been raped and like all of this stuff, and and I had just enough gas like to get home. And I had like $2,000 the night before. I had like $20 that morning. And I went to a gas station, and I was resigning that I had to die because I had earnestly tried AA, and it failed. And I had earnestly tried drinking normally, and it failed. It's that rock in a hard place. There's no way out. And I was just like, I gotta go. I can't do it. I cannot take the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual exhaustion anymore, because I've been doing it for like 7-8 years at that point.
Yeah.
And and I was listing off to God while I was pumping the last of my money into my car to get home. All of these very specific reasons of reasons I was going to kill myself because he had not addressed, like, he either cursed me or didn't address things or whatever. And it was just sad. It was just really sad. And then this really straight-laced guy, he had just come out of church, like obviously just come out of church. He comes up to me, and I'm like covered in puke. I have alcohol poisoning, like severe alcohol poisoning. And he comes up to me and he says, I really don't want to freak you out, but the Spirit of God is telling me that I need to like speak to you right now.
Wow.
And I was like, You're fucking kidding me, dude.
Yeah.
And he proceeds to specifically list off every single one of those things that I just yelled at, like specific, like not some weird like zodiac
broad stuff, but
no, these specifics.
Wow.
And proceeds to basically like I'm not super Christian, but like prophecy, like, you know, say that he knows all of this.
Oh yeah.
And it's gonna be okay, and proceeded to paint this picture of what my life was gonna look like. And I was like, how the fuck do you expect, you know, how the fuck am I going to do that? Right.
Yeah.
And clearly you've got some connection happening. You cared to tell me the secret. And he goes, you know what to do. And he walked his happy ass out.
Wow. I just got chills. That's wow.
And he was gone.
Yeah.
And he was gone. And that's one of those things where it's like
unexplainable, and yeah,
it's explainable, but by nothing that I can quantify.
Right.
And, you know, and that has been a really lasting lesson for me, is that God works miracles.
Yeah.
But he doesn't part seas, he works through us.
Right.
And we've got to be available to do what that kid did for me, for someone else.
Yeah.
And be bold about it, which is terrifying, but saved my life.
Yeah.
And so I drove home. I'm vomiting. I'm jaundiced and green. I think the last thing I remember was, I think I downed like 6 Long Islands. Like I pounded. Yeah. I was sick. And I told my mom, this is it. You know, this is it. I'm done. I was done. And as soon, I think I had like a little bit of shake or something that I smoked to like
just calm down.
Just like help with how sick I was.
Right.
And as soon as I was physically able, I went to a meeting, and I've been sober since.
Wow. That's incredible. Wow. And how long do you have now?
Coming up on 5 years.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
March 24th, 2015.
Awesome.
Yeah. And there's so much that's happened sober, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, 5 years is a long time, and that's really awesome. You know,
it's so not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
No.
It's weird, you know, like,
no.
You know, I have 3 years in February, and it's weird now. I feel like a normal person. You know what I mean?
Isn't
like,
that fucked up?
it's so weird. Like, life was so dramatic before, like, and things would happen, and like my emotions were all so throttled at all times that, like, you know, like one little thing would happen and it would be the end of the world, you know. And now it's like little shit happens and you're like, oh, it's okay.
Well,
like,
it's insane how used to chaos you get.
Yes.
But then how hard it is to like depressurize from that, to get used to no chaos happening and like not making it for a sense of normalcy. That's something. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, completely. Yeah. That's something I'm going through now. Like, I'm in the healthiest romantic relationship I've ever been in. And like now, like I catch myself finding things to like, we don't fight, but like I find myself like picking at stuff that like isn't an issue.
Right.
And I have to be like, yo, that's like my alcoholic addict brain, like tricking me into making something out of this.
I literally think of it as like a second person that like takes over my body sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I have, for my own self, like just to kind of separate myself from like the shame and embarrassment and guilt, I'm like, she did that. Yeah. And not me. Okay, bitch, stop talking. Like, you need to get out of it. And, you know, she's gotten quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter the longer I stay sober.
Right. So 5 years is a long time. I mean, what would you say has been the hardest thing, other than the actual work to get sober and dealing with the past and the trauma and emotions? What's been the hardest thing that you've had to go through in sobriety? Like, you know, outside of yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the guy, like the toxic, the one boy I kind of talked about. Yeah. At 9 months sober. And I was just kind of like starting to figure out how to feel things. Sorry, am I going just like way too long?
No, not at all. Keep going.
And this has probably been the thing that has colored most of my sobriety. He was drunk and he raped me. And I was stone cold sober, did not want it. Like, it wasn't one of those kind of like ambiguous gray cases. It was like screaming violent no. And I blacked out. Like, and it was this huge, crazy moment saying like what your brain does to protect you.
Right.
And I hadn't dealt with any of the stuff that had happened before.
Right.
You know, you have study stuff, you have normal kind of women in precarious situations kind of things. And I had a lot of trauma that I hadn't looked at, wasn't emotionally prepared at looking at. And this happened and it ripped me in half.
Right.
Ripped me in half. And it wasn't necessarily that. It was everything before it. And that it just popped the seal right the fuck off. And I was catatonic. And, you know, I was so angry at God. Like, I got sober. This has been the hardest thing I've ever done. The hardest. And then you put this shit? Like, what is wrong with you, dude? And God works in my higher power works in mysterious ways because it has been the single most transformative thing that's happened to me. Because it made me, in addition to all of, you know, your kind of normal AA stuff and working steps and service and all of that, and all the ways that changes you, this fundamentally made me like broken. And I had to build back up in a healthy way.
Right.
Or else I wasn't going to live. And there was probably a 6-month period where the only reason I didn't drink was because I knew I was going to kill myself if I put a drink in my mouth. Like 48 hours done. Like that was it. And I don't know, but it broke me. Like, you think you're broken getting sober. It was just like that, another layer of the onion. And I had to completely reorient how I related to myself, how I related to other people, where I found like strength, validation, hope, satisfaction, like self-confidence, hope, like all of it. Yeah. And I got to do all of that in the framework of the program. Yeah.
So, I mean, not only did it save your life once, but it saved your life twice. I mean, yeah.
And so like, I know that's maybe a little bit heavy, but like,
well, I mean, I never knew that about you, you know, and like,
well, and it's not something that I talk about a whole lot because I kind of hate victim culture.
Right.
Passionately.
Well, you know, I mean, and I say that I didn't know that about you because like you don't exude the personality of somebody who, you know, is a victim. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a very empowered person. Like, I from what I know of you, like, you're, you know, very successful in all of your endeavors, and like
trying to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're very upstanding and like have a great reputation in the community and stuff. And you know, the little bit I've known of you, so it seems like you really overcame it, you know, in a lot of ways.
And that's the power. Of this thing.
Greater than ourselves.
Yeah, it's the power of this thing. It's the power of this power, and it working through people and through us. And and I don't know, it's interesting because there's a lot like that. Just, it's not that situation that's what's important. Like, for me it was, but there's so many people that like expect, and I expected, and to some extent I still do expect, for because I got sober everything's gonna be fucking peachy.
Yeah.
And the reality is that like huge, terrible things happen to us sober, things that we can't even fathom. Like, I couldn't have fathomed everything that happened there, but like, we can do it, and we can become better because of it. And I don't know that would have happened to me or to you or to anyone else, like in any other situation than the one that we find ourselves in.
Right. Yeah.
It's really profound.
Like, yeah. And I mean, you know, if something like that were to happen to, you know, the old person, like, may not have made it. You
Definitely
know?
wouldn't have.
Like,
and that
would have been the breaking point.
That
like,
was the whole thing, where it's like, if that had happened to me sober, would not be here.
Right.
Just wouldn't.
Right.
I just would have said fuck it with a capital F.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You know?
It's remarkable, you know, like, whatever you know people believe, it's like, you know, the universe, God, higher power, whatever, like, often puts us in these situations we can't really understand until we're, you know, years away from it, past the trauma of it. But like, there's a purpose in it.
But pain serves a purpose.
Exactly.
It serves a purpose. hope serves purpose. Like, positive emotions serve lots of fucking purposes
Right.
too.
But the negative ones
it's
too.
the ones that the things that I thought that I would never fucking recover from are the ones that have made me into a person who I admire today.
Right.
Like, I can look at myself in the mirror and be content,
Right.
And none of that would have happened if the terrible things that happened leading up to it didn't.
Right.
So I wish how do we end this on a happy note?
Yeah. I mean, lately I've been asking people like, if you could give your older self, younger self, not older in age, but like the old you, younger version of you, some words of encouragement or something that you wish you would have heard from, you know what I'm saying? Like, what would you say?
Be true to yourself.
Be true to yourself.
Be true to yourself for sure.
Well, dude, thanks so much for doing this, man.
Absolutely.
That was wild. That was a fucking roller coaster.
Sorry.
No, it was great.
I will literally talk forever. I'm an alcoholic and I love talking about me. So.
Like, you seem so like mousy the times I've talked to you, you know, like I've had very short conversations with you. And so it's shocking.
It's always like people will catch me having a cigarette and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I really didn't take you for a smoker." And I'm like, you don't even know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I've had a blast. Thanks for having me
Absolutely.
on.
Anything you want to plug?
What?
Anything you want to plug? Like, I know you got, what's your Instagram for your baking stuff?
Oh God, it's too much. I don't want to do it anymore.
Okay. I can put it in the description. You can send
put
it to me.
In the description.
Yeah.
I make cookies.
Yeah. So if you're in the Lubbock area and want some baked goods, she's the plug. So.
I'm the plug.
That's cool. Well, thanks so much for doing this.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye, y'all.